They don't respect you, but they still keep you around. They ignore you, then come back. They test you, then blame you. They make you feel confused, and you still stay. And the worst part, they only do this because they know you'll tolerate it. But today, that ends. Because the moment you allow disrespect, you teach people how to treat you. Today, I'll show you 5 simple ways to handle it. Without drama, without begging, without losing your self-respect. Before we begin, I'm currently working on the Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men course that's coming very soon. This is a complete step-by-step system that will rewire how you think, act, and move in relationships, so you stop being played and start being respected without saying a word. It breaks everything down into clear, practical actions you can apply immediately, so these principles become permanent, not temporary motivation. If you want early access to the biggest transformation of your life, comment "The Blueprint" right now. Number 1. Stop explaining yourself. You don't need to explain everything, and the sooner you accept that, the faster your life starts to shift in your favor, because right now you are stuck in a pattern where every time she acts distant, disrespectful, or inconsistent, you immediately go into defense mode, trying to clarify your intentions, justify your actions, and prove that you are a good man. But here is the truth. You already know, deep down, she understands exactly what she is doing, and she understands exactly how you feel. She sees your effort, she sees your patience, she sees your consistency, and yet she still chooses to treat you like an option, because she has learned that you will stay regardless. And every time you open your mouth to explain yourself, you lower your position without realizing it, because you are asking to be understood by someone who is benefiting from pretending not to understand. And that is where you lose yourself, because now your focus is no longer on your standards, your time, and your direction. Your focus is on fixing how she sees you, and that is a losing position every single time, because the more you try to correct her perception, the more she sees that her behavior is affecting you. And once she knows that she has emotional influence over you, she does not need to respect you, she only needs to manage you. And this is where Stoic discipline comes in, not as a theory but as a way of living, because instead of reacting, instead of explaining, instead of trying to control her perception, you take full control of yourself. You observe her behavior without emotion. You accept what is in front of you without trying to change it through words, and then you act accordingly, because a man who is grounded in himself does not waste energy explaining his value. He demonstrates it through what he tolerates and what he removes from his life. And when she starts replying late, when she starts acting distant, when she starts showing you inconsistency, you do not send paragraphs. You do not question her. You do not chase clarity. You simply adjust your availability, your attention, and your presence, because your silence is not weakness. It is discipline. It is control. It is a clear signal that you are not here to negotiate your worth, and this is where most people struggle, because they are addicted to closure. They want answers. They want explanations. They want to understand why someone changed. But the truth is, you do not need closure. You need clarity, and clarity comes from behavior, not words. If she respects you, you see it. If she values you, you feel it through her actions. If she does not, that is also clear. And once you accept that, your need to explain disappears, because you are no longer trying to convince someone to see your value. You are deciding whether they deserve access to it. And this shift changes everything, because now instead of being reactive, you become selective. Instead of being emotionally driven, you become grounded. Instead of being controlled by her behavior, you become in control of your response. And that is where your power begins. Because a man who does not over-explain is a man who is not seeking approval. And a man who is not seeking approval cannot be easily manipulated. And the moment you truly understand this, not just logically, but through your actions, your life starts to transform, because you stop wasting time on people who benefit from misunderstanding you, and you start building a mindset where your energy is reserved for people who naturally respect you without needing a speech. And that is how you take your power back, not by saying more, but by saying less and meaning it through your actions. And if you are ready to fully break out of this cycle and stop living in a constant state of explaining yourself, then the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men is exactly what you need, because it gives you the structure, the mindset, and the principles to finally take control of your life and relationships without confusion or second-guessing. It is filled with timeless Stoic principles that immediately reshape how you think, how you respond, and how you carry yourself, so you stop seeking validation and start moving with certainty. And now it's even more powerful because it's available in audiobook format, meaning you can absorb this life-changing knowledge while walking, jogging, or going through your day, turning every moment into growth. Ask yourself honestly, how much longer do you want to stay in this cycle of overthinking, chasing clarity, and losing control when the solution is right in front of you? The link is in the comments, and once you have it, it's yours for life, giving you permanent access to knowledge that will continue shaping you into a man who never needs to. Explain his worth again. Number 2. Don't reward bad behavior. This is where most men fail, not because they do not see the disrespect, but because they tolerate it in small doses until it becomes the standard, because it never starts extreme, it starts subtle. She replies a little slower. She cancels once. She becomes slightly distant, and instead of addressing it through your actions, you ignore it, you rationalize it. You tell yourself she is busy, she is stressed, she is figuring things out, and while you are busy giving her the benefit of the doubt, she is busy learning how far she can go with you, because people test limits before they break them, and every time she crosses a line and still gets your attention, your time, your effort, you are reinforcing the very behavior that frustrates you, and this is the uncomfortable truth you need to face. She is not treating you like a fool by accident. She is doing it because it works, because she has seen that no matter how inconsistent she is, no matter how she pulls away and comes back, you remain available, and availability without standards creates disrespect. Because value is not just about what you offer, it is about what you withdraw when you are not treated properly. And this is where discipline separates you from the average man, because instead of reacting emotionally, instead of confronting her with words, you control what you give, because attention is not neutral. Attention is a reward, and when you give it to someone who has not earned it, you lower your own value in the process. So when she disappears and comes back casually, you do not reward that with excitement. When she cancels plans and tries to reschedule without accountability, you do not accept it as normal. When she shows inconsistency, you do not compensate by giving more. You reduce, you step back, you become less available, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect, because you understand that your time is limited, your energy is valuable, and your attention is not something that should be handed out freely to someone who treats it as optional. And this is where many struggle, because they are afraid that if they pull back, they will lose her. But that fear is exactly what keeps you stuck, because as long as you are afraid to lose her, you will accept behavior that slowly makes you lose yourself. And the reality is simple: if pulling back makes her disappear, she was never truly invested. She was only attached to the access she had to you, and that is not something worth keeping, because a woman who values you does not need to be trained to treat you properly. She naturally aligns with your standards, and if she does not, your job is not to fix her. It is to remove yourself from the situation. And this is where Stoic application becomes real, because you stop trying to control her behavior. You stop trying to predict her actions, and you focus entirely on what is within your control. your response, your boundaries, your decisions. And when you operate from that place, you stop being reactive, you stop being emotionally pulled in different directions, and you become steady, grounded, and clear. And that clarity allows you to see things for what they are, without illusions, without excuses, without self-deception. And once you reach that point, your life changes because you are no longer rewarding what disrespects you. You are reinforcing what aligns with you. And that shift alone transforms not just your relationships, but your entire standard for how people engage with you. Number 3. Control your emotions. Your biggest weakness is not her, and the sooner you accept that without ego, without excuses, without trying to shift the blame, the faster you step into real control over your life. Because what is actually hurting you is not what she does. It is how you respond to what she does. It is the way your mind starts racing when she pulls back. It is the way your chest tightens when she ignores you. It is the way you lose focus, lose discipline, and start acting out of urgency instead of clarity, because now your state is being dictated by her behavior, and that is the position where you lose every single time, because once she can trigger your emotions, she does not need to respect you, she only needs to manage your reactions. And this is where most men stay stuck. They say they want control, they say they want respect, but the moment she changes her tone, delays a reply, or shifts her energy, everything inside them shifts as well. And now they are no longer leading their own life. They are responding to hers. And this is where you need to become brutally honest with yourself, because no one is forcing you to react. No one is forcing you to overthink. No one is forcing you to pick up your phone every few minutes. You are choosing that. And until you take full responsibility for that, nothing changes. Because control does not come from changing her behavior. It comes from mastering your internal state, regardless of what she does. And that is where Stoic discipline becomes practical, not theoretical. Because instead of chasing emotional comfort, you train yourself to sit in discomfort without reacting. When she goes silent, you stay grounded. When she becomes inconsistent, you stay focused on your priorities. When she tries to provoke a reaction, you observe without engaging, because you understand that your emotions are not commands, they are signals. And just because you feel something does not mean you act on it. And this is where real strength is built. Not in moments where everything is going well, but in moments where you are tested and you choose control over impulse, because every time you resist the urge to react, every time you choose discipline over emotional release, you are building a version of yourself that cannot be easily shaken, and that is what changes your entire life, because now you are no longer dependent on external validation. You are no longer waiting for her to be consistent so you can be calm. You are calm regardless, you are focused regardless, you are steady regardless. And that stability makes you dangerous in the best way possible, because people cannot predict you, they cannot manipulate you, they cannot pull you into emotional chaos, and that forces a different level of respect, not because you demand it with words, but because your presence demands it through your behavior. And this is where you start to see things clearly, because when you are not emotionally overwhelmed, you notice patterns, you notice inconsistencies, you notice the truth without trying to soften it, and that clarity allows you to make better decisions, because now you are not reacting out of fear of losing her, you are acting out of alignment with yourself, and that shift changes everything, because instead of asking, how do I keep her, you start asking, does this situation even deserve my time? Does this align with the life I am building? Does this add value or take it away? And when you start operating from that level of awareness, you stop being controlled by temporary emotions, and you start building a life based on long-term standards. And that is where your power truly begins, because a man who controls his emotions cannot be controlled by anyone else. Number 4. Set clear boundaries. If you don't set boundaries, people will cross them every single time. Not because they are confused, not because they do not understand you, but because they are watching what you tolerate and adjusting accordingly. And this is where many men deceive themselves into thinking that being patient, being understanding, and being accommodating will earn them respect. When in reality, it often does the opposite, because when she sees that you continue to accept behavior that goes against your own standards, she does not see strength. She sees flexibility in a way that benefits her and costs you. And that is how you slowly become someone who is easy to manage instead of someone who is respected. Because boundaries are not about controlling her actions, they are about controlling your access, your presence, and your participation. And the mistake most men make is thinking that boundaries are something you say instead of something you enforce, because you can sit there and explain what you expect. You can tell her how you want to be treated, but if your actions do not match your words, your boundaries mean nothing, because people do not take instructions seriously. They take consequences seriously. And this is where you need to shift your mindset completely, because instead of trying to get her to behave a certain way, you focus on what you will do when she does not, because that is the only thing you actually control. And when she cancels plans without respect for your time, you do not argue, you do not complain, you simply stop prioritizing her. When she becomes inconsistent, you do not chase consistency from her, you become less available. When she disrespects you, you do not try to correct her behavior with words. You remove your presence, and this is where your strength is tested, because it requires you to detach from the outcome. It requires you to accept that enforcing your boundaries might mean losing her, and if that thought scares you, that is exactly what you need to confront, because as long as you are afraid to lose her, your boundaries will always be weak, and weak boundaries lead to a weak position in every area of your life, not just with her, but with people in general, because once you show that you will tolerate disrespect to avoid losing someone, that pattern repeats everywhere. And this is where applying Stoic principles becomes essential, because you stop trying to control what is outside of you. You stop trying to force people to act a certain way, and you focus entirely on your choices, your standards, and your discipline. And that discipline is what protects your peace, because you are no longer negotiating with behavior that goes against you. You are simply removing yourself from it. And that level of clarity creates a different kind of presence, because people can sense when you are not dependent on their approval. They can sense when your time is not easily accessible. They can sense when your attention is not something they can play with, and that changes how they approach you, because now there is a risk of losing access to you, and people respect what they can lose, not what is always available. And this is where your life starts to transform, because you are no longer bending to keep people around. You are standing firm and allowing the right people to align with you naturally, and the wrong ones remove themselves without you needing to force anything. And that is the ultimate advantage, because now your environment starts to reflect your standards, your relationships start to reflect your discipline, and your life starts to move in a direction that is built on respect instead of tolerance. And that is how you take back control, not by demanding better treatment, but by refusing to accept anything less through your actions. Number 5. Be ready to walk away. This is the most important one, and if you ignore everything else but understand this fully, your entire life shifts in a way most people never experience, because the moment you are truly ready to walk away, not as a tactic, not as a way to get her attention, but as a real decision you are comfortable executing, you remove the one thing that has been used against you this whole time, your fear of losing her, and that fear is what keeps you stuck in situations where you are disrespected, overlooked, and treated like an option, because as long as she knows you are not going anywhere, she has no reason to change, no reason to improve, no reason to respect you at the level you expect, because in her mind you are already secured. You are already emotionally invested. You are already attached, and that means she can do less while you continue giving more. And this is the trap most men live in. They stay longer than they should. They tolerate more than they should. They hope things will change without realizing that their presence without consequence is the very reason nothing changes. And this is where you need to face the truth without softening it. She is not confused about how she treats you. She is choosing it. And every time you stay despite that, you confirm that her behavior is acceptable, and that is why nothing improves. Because people do not rise to your expectations. They settle into what you tolerate, and when you finally reach the point where you say enough, not out of anger, not out of frustration, but out of clarity, everything changes internally before it changes externally, because now you are no longer negotiating your worth. You are no longer trying to earn basic respect. You are no longer adjusting yourself to fit into a situation that does not align with you. You are making a decision that your time, your energy, and your life direction matter more than temporary attachment. And that decision is what gives you power, because now you are operating from a place of choice instead of dependency. And this is where Stoic application becomes real in your life, because you accept what is in front of you without denial. You see her behavior clearly. You understand that you cannot control her actions, and instead of trying to fix what is outside of you, you control your response. And sometimes the strongest response is to leave without drama, without explanation, without trying to make her understand what she lost. Because you are not leaving to prove a point. You are leaving because you have standards that you refuse to compromise. And this is where many struggle, because they are waiting for the perfect moment. They are waiting for closure. They are waiting for her to admit something. They are waiting for a sign that confirms their decision, but that moment rarely comes. And the longer you wait, the more you delay your own growth, because you are holding on to something that is holding you back. And once you let go, once you detach completely, once you remove yourself from the situation, you start to see things differently. You start to regain your focus, your discipline, your direction, because your energy is no longer being drained by inconsistency and uncertainty. And this is where your life begins to rebuild in a stronger way, because now you are investing in yourself, your goals, your health, your purpose, instead of investing in someone who does not return that investment. And here is the part that most do not expect. When you truly walk away and mean it, she notices, not always immediately, not always in a way you can see, but she notices the absence of your attention. She notices the silence where your presence used to be. She notices that she no longer has access to you the way she once did, and that is when the dynamic shifts. Because now she is the one who has to process the loss of control. But by that point, it no longer matters to you, because you are not walking away to make her react. You are walking away to reclaim yourself, and that is the difference between temporary change and permanent transformation. Because when you reach a place where you are genuinely okay without her, where your life is not dependent on her presence, where your peace is not tied to her behavior, you become someone who cannot be easily manipulated. You become someone who does not settle. You become someone who moves with purpose and clarity, and that version of you is what changes everything, not just in relationships, but in every area of your life, because now you are not afraid to lose what does not align with you, and that freedom allows you to build something better, something stronger, something that actually matches your standards, and that is the real win. Not getting her back, not proving anything to her, but becoming the kind of man who does not stay where he is not valued, who does not tolerate what goes against him, and who has the discipline to walk away even when it is difficult, because that is what separates those who stay stuck from those who move forward. And once you reach that point, you realize something powerful. You were never losing her. You were losing yourself by staying, and the moment you walk away, you take all of that back, and step into a life where you are no longer controlled, no longer confused, and no longer settling for less than what you know you deserve. Most people will hear this and go right back to chasing, explaining, and accepting less, because the truth is, society benefits from you staying confused, emotional, and easy to control. But you don't have to stay there. If you're ready to step out of that cycle and actually become a man who moves with clarity, discipline, and self-respect, then the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men is your next move, filled with timeless Stoic principles that will transform your life immediately. It's now available in audiobook format, so you can sharpen your mindset while walking, training, or moving through your day, turning your time into power. This isn't just information. This is a permanent shift in how you think, how you act, and how people treat you, and once you have it, it's yours for life, linked in the comments. If you're serious, comment "No more explaining" like the video, and subscribe to help more men wake up to this truth before they waste years learning it the hard way.